signal gets thin and the night gets thick, welcome. I'm Sterling Gray, and you're listening to Strangely Odd. Lock the door, pour something warm. We've got a long, strange night ahead of us. Tonight, friends, we go south. Down past Nashville, along a bend in the Red River, into Robertson County, Tennessee. It is 1817. The settlement they'll later call Adams is barely a crossing on a dirt road. The Bells are a good family, church deacon, good land, neighbors who respect them. And then something comes to live with them. It starts small, a knock on the outer wall, a sound in the ceiling like chains being dragged, something gnawing at the bedpost in the dark, but when you light the lamp, nothing is there. Then the bed covers start coming off in the night. Something pulls Betsy Bell, the daughter, 11 years old, out of her bed by the hair, slaps her cheeks, leaves bruises. And then it finds its voice. A whisper at first, then a murmur. Then, friends, this is the part that unnerves me most. A clear, strong female voice that knows the Bible by heart. It could quote scripture, sing hymns, name strangers the moment they walk through the door, repeat back word for word a private conversation held 3 miles away. It loved the mother, Lucy Bell. It despised the father, John Bell, with something that felt almost personal. And over 3 years, it wore that man down, twisted his face, seized his jaw, until one December morning in 1820, John Bell did not wake up. Beside him, they found a small vial, dark liquid. No one could say what it was. The voice crowed. People called it Kate, the Bell Witch of Adams, Tennessee, the only American ghost story said to have been taken seriously by a sitting United States president. My guest tonight has spent the better part of a decade inside this case. A historian and folklorist, he has walked the old Bell property more times than he can count and written extensively on what he calls the most legally, psychologically, and spiritually complicated haunting in American history. Dr. Marcus Eakins is with us tonight. We're going to turn this thing over, look at every side of it, and ask the question Adams has never stopped asking. What was Kate? Right after this.
Strangely Odd with Sterling Gray. We'll be right back. Stay close. And whatever you do, don't touch that dial.
Strangely Odd is brought to you by Double Secret Labs. We do science, so you don't have to. What they actually do over there? Well, nobody's quite sure. I'm not certain they'd tell you even if you asked. But they keep these strange hours lit. So like and subscribe to Double Secret Labs and find Strangely Odd on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember the name. Double Secret Labs. You're listening to Strangely Odd. Folks, if your bookshelf doesn't yet hold a copy of Cryptozoology Monthly, you are missing out on the finest field reporting in the country. Sasquatch sightings, lake monsters, the things our official science likes to pretend don't exist. 12 issues a year, delivered in a plain brown wrapper, because we know not everyone in your house is ready for the truth. Cryptozoologymonthly.com. Tell them Sterling sent you.
You're back among the night people. Sterling Gray. Strangely Odd. Right where the dial gets interesting.
And we're back. Dr. Marcus Eakins is with me tonight. Marcus, let's start where you always start with this case. Not with the witch, with the land.
Yeah, that's right, because the land matters here. Robertson County in 1817 is frontier. It's dense timber, red clay, the Red River cutting through. The Bell Farm is about 100 acres. John Bell has been there since around 1804, came up from Halifax County in North Carolina. He's a deacon in the local Baptist church. He's respected. His neighbors like him. There's no, there's no obvious reason for what comes next.
And what does come next? The very first thing.
So the first recorded incident is John Bell himself seeing something in the cornfield. A creature he describes as a dog with the head of a rabbit, just sitting there between the rows, watching him. He shoots at it, it disappears. And then that same night, the first night, the family starts hearing knocking on the outer walls, like someone rapping with their knuckles. They go outside. Nobody's there. It escalates very quickly. Within weeks, you've got sounds inside the house, chains dragging, a sound like something gnawing at the bedpost, and then the physical contact begins. Betsy Bell, the youngest daughter, she's being pulled from her bed by the hair, hard enough that she screams. Witnesses, people the family invited in to verify, they see her cheeks go red, like she'd been struck, more than once. There are bruises they can't explain.
Now, the family calls in neighbors early on. This isn't something they try to keep secret.
No, and that's interesting, right? John Bell tells his neighbor James Johnston almost immediately. Johnston comes over, spends the night, experiences it himself. He's convinced. And from there, it spreads. The Bell home becomes, I don't know how else to put this, a destination. People travel from neighboring counties to witness, and it performs for them. Visitors ask it questions, and it answers.
That's the thing that gets me every time. The voice. When does it actually start speaking?
1818 into 1819 is when the voice really develops. It starts as almost a lip-smacking sound, a faint whispering you couldn't quite make out, and then it strengthens. You get this full, clear female voice. And the first thing it does with that voice is quote scripture, long passages, accurately. It engages visiting ministers in theological debate, which, for an 1819 Baptist community on the Tennessee frontier, that is not nothing. And then it starts demonstrating knowledge it shouldn't have. It knows things about visitors. It identifies strangers by name. There's a documented account of it reciting back, word for word, a sermon delivered at a church several miles away. At the same time, the family was hearing it at home. Which means either someone is lying, or this thing is operating on a scale that doesn't fit our usual framework for a haunting.
Now, you mentioned the selectivity. It's kind to Lucy Bell. It hates John Bell. That selective behavior, what do you make of it?
Lucy Bell is described as, the entity's own words, quote, the most perfect woman to walk the earth. It sings hymns for her when she's sick. One account says it brought her fresh fruit when she was ill. In the dead of a Tennessee winter, and John Bell it treats with contempt. It shrieks at him. It twists his jaw. There are witnesses who describe his face contorting like something's got hold of his cheek and is pulling. He can't eat. He can't swallow. Now, a 20th century Nashville neurologist, Dr. Charles Bailey Bell, who was John's great-grandson, looked at those symptom descriptions and said they match a progressive neurological condition. Facial palsy, pharyngeal spasms, a real illness.
So the illness could be organic.
Could be, but then you have to explain why a real entity or a sophisticated hoaxer chose to perform around that illness in a way that mimicked its progression almost perfectly over 3 years.
Now, Andrew Jackson. I have to ask about Andrew Jackson.
Ha! Yeah, everyone asks about Jackson. So the story goes that Jackson, this is around 1819, he's already the hero of New Orleans. He travels to the Bell farm with a party of soldiers, because 3 of the Bell boys had fought under him at New Orleans. The account says the wagon gets stuck on the road approaching the farm. Just stops. They check the wheels, they whip the horses. Nothing. And then a voice comes out of the brush and says, "All right, General, let the wagon move on. I will see you again tonight. And the wagon rolls free.
That's remarkable.
It's a great story. Jackson supposedly said, "By the eternal, boys, it is the witch." But here's the problem. The earliest source for this is an 1894 book published 75 years after the event. There's nothing in Jackson's own letters or documented movements that places him there. So we hold it lightly.
All right, the death. December 1820. Walk me through what the family found.
John Bell had been declining for months, progressively weaker, barely able to get out of bed. December 20th, 1820, the family can't rouse him. He's in a stupor. And beside him, a small vial, dark, smoky-looking liquid. Nobody in the family recognizes it. Nobody knows how it got there. One of the sons gives some to the cat. The cat dies. They throw the vial in the fireplace and the account says it burns with a blue flame. And the entity, Kate, is said to have crowed and said, quote, "I gave old Jack a big dose of cat's paw last night, which fixed him." Bragging about it, openly.
Now, Betsy Bell's engagement. I want to talk about Joshua Gardner because it seems like that thread keeps pulling.
So Betsy, she'd been engaged to Joshua Gardner, a young man her own age, good family, neighbor. And the entity had a specific, almost obsessive fixation on breaking this engagement. It tormented her about it, demanded she end it. In early 1821, Betsy breaks off the engagement, and almost immediately after, the entity tells the family it's leaving, says it'll return in 7 years, and then it goes quiet.
And the 7-year return?
1828. Strange phenomena reportedly recur briefly in the Bell house. The surviving family refuses to engage. It fades.
So, who was Richard Powell?
Richard Powell was Betsy Bell's schoolteacher. He was older, about 11 years older than her. And the most developed skeptical theory is that Powell orchestrated the entire haunting to break up her engagement to Joshua Gardner. He had motive. He was secretly in love with her. He had a secret prior marriage the community didn't know about, which shows a capacity for sustained deception. And here is the thing that I cannot walk away from. The entity never manifested when Powell was in the house.
Never?
Never. In a case where this thing performed for virtually every other visitor, ministers, soldiers, neighbors, strangers, Richard Powell walks in and Kate goes silent every time. And 3 years after the haunting ends, Betsy Bell marries Richard Powell. He gets exactly what a hoax would have needed to accomplish.
And what did Kate say she was, when people asked directly?
Oh, she gave several answers. The most consistent one, she said she was old Kate Batts' witch. Kate Batts was a real neighbor. John Bell had a soured business dealing with her over a land and slave transaction. But here's the problem. Kate Batts outlived John Bell. She wasn't dead. So if this was the spirit of Kate Batts, that doesn't hold. Other times it claimed to be a family of spirits, gave them names: Black Dog, Mathematics, Psychopography, Jerusalem. At other moments it said it was the devil, or the ghost of a Native American disturbed from the land. It contradicted itself freely.
Which itself is strange, because a real entity of that power. Why lie about what you are?
Unless the evasion is deliberate, unless keeping people guessing is part of the point, or unless the entity is a human performance, and the contradictions are what happen when you're improvising under pressure.
Marcus, after everything you've read, everything you've walked, everything you've turned over in this case, what do you think happened in that farmhouse?
I think John Bell was genuinely ill. I think something terrible happened in that family that none of our primary sources were willing to put on paper. And I think something, human or otherwise, decided that John Bell needed to die. Whether it was the witch, or whether it was the school teacher and a frightened teenage girl and a dying man, I'm not sure those two answers are as different as people assume.
Lord, that is something to sit with. Dr. Marcus Eakins, friends, we're going to open up the lines after this. I want to hear from anyone who's been to Adams, anyone with a family connection to Robertson County, anyone who's had a brush with something that knew things it shouldn't have known. Right back, after this.
Hold that thought. And hold the line. Strangely Odd with Sterling Gray. We'll be right back.
Some nights you just need to get away from the noise. All of it. Lantern Hill Cabins. Off-grid getaways deep in the pines. No cell signal, no streetlights. Just you, the dark, and a sky full of stars you forgot existed. Wood stove. Lantern light. Quiet enough to hear yourself think, or hear whatever's moving out there in the trees. Lantern Hill Cabins. Book your escape at lanternhillcabins.com. You're listening to Strangely Odd. If you've got a story, something you saw, something you can't explain, something that's been sitting with you for years, the lines are always open. We don't laugh here, we listen. Call in, tell me. You're among friends now.
From wherever the signal finds you tonight, this is Strangely Odd with Sterling Gray. Welcome back to the Strange Hours.
And we're back. Lines are open. 800-STRANGE-001. I want to hear from you tonight. You been to Adams, Tennessee? You have a family connection to Robertson County? Or maybe you've had your own experience with something that seemed to know things it had no right to know. First caller, you're on Strangely Odd.
Yeah, hey, Sterling, longtime listener. Frank from Clarksville.
Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, so I grew up about 20 miles from Adams, Robertson County, born and raised. And my grandmother, she never talked about the Bell Witch directly, right? But she had this expression whenever something strange happened around the house. She'd say, Kate was here. Just like that, flat, no explanation. I asked her once what she meant, and she just looked at me and said, "You know what I mean." And the thing is, Sterling, I was maybe 9 years old. I didn't know what she meant, but the way she said it made me feel like I was supposed to be afraid. And I was.
Frank, was there ever a specific incident, something your grandmother pointed to?
She said one night when she was a girl, she was sleeping at a relative's farm north of Adams. Something pulled the blanket off her bed, clean off, onto the floor, and there was nobody else in the room. She said it once, never said it again, and I believe her.
Thank you, Frank. That is the detail. The blanket. That detail shows up in the original Bell accounts, too. The bed covers pulled off in the night. You hear that, Marcus?
I did, and that's not unusual at all in Robertson County oral tradition. That specific detail persists locally in a way that a lot of the more dramatic ones don't. It's one of the things that makes me take the local memory seriously.
Next caller, you're on.
Hi, Sterling. Donna, calling from Nashville. I actually visited the Bell Witch Cave last October. Took a tour with my husband.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So, the cave is right there on the old Bell property, up on the bluff above the Red River. They take you maybe 150 feet in. And the guide, she tells you about how the family used to store food in there. And allegedly, Kate would retreat into the cave between episodes. And I don't know how to explain this without sounding crazy. But when we got to the back of the cave, where it narrows down, the temperature dropped. Just suddenly. My husband felt it too. And I heard something.
What did you hear?
A high tone. Like, not a voice exactly, more like a frequency, right at the edge of hearing. and it lasted maybe 5 seconds and then it was gone. And the guide, she just kind of smiled at me, like she'd seen that reaction before.
Donna, the cave is limestone karst. There are explanations for temperature drops, but that's sound. I want to sit with that. Thank you for calling in. One more before we get to our last caller. You're on Strangely Odd.
Sterling. Raymond. This is a little... I don't know if this is worth anything, but my family name on my mother's side is Johnston. James Johnston was one of the first neighbors John Bell called in to witness the haunting.
That's not nothing, Raymond.
Well, my grandmother had this little handwritten note, supposedly passed down through the family. Just a few lines about the Bell place. And one line said, "The voice knew my name before I spoke it." She kept that note folded up in her Bible, never framed it, never showed it off. She said it wasn't something to be proud of. It was just something that had happened.
Raymond, do you still have that note?
I do, yeah. It's sitting in a box in my closet. I've never shown it to anybody. I don't know why I called tonight. I thought you should know it exists.
Raymond, friend, show it to somebody. That is history. Thank you for that call. One more caller waiting. No name on the board. Just a number from... I can't quite make that out. Caller, go ahead.
Are we scrambled? Tell me we're scrambled.
Running you through the scrambler right now, friend. You're good.
Good. I can't stay on long. I've been sitting on this since Tuesday, and I needed to get it out somewhere.
You've got the line. What is it?
There's a program, budget line buried under atmospheric research. $240 million a year. Doesn't appear in any public appropriations. It runs out of a facility near the Arkansas border.
What kind of facility?
The public-facing version is a weather monitoring station. The real version runs ionospheric pulse sequences, low frequency, below 18 kilohertz. They're testing behavioral resonance, what those frequencies do at range.
Behavioral. You mean behavioral effects on people.
That is what I mean. Sleep disruption, cortisol spikes, auditory artifacts at the edge of perception. They've been doing this since the late 90s. The program name has changed 3 times, but the frequency hasn't.
And how do you know this?
Because I pulled a tail number. Tail number November 74 Zulu Whiskey. It was in and out of that airspace 11 times last year. It doesn't show up on any flight registry. There is no registration for that tail.
An unregistered aircraft.
Unregistered. Off book. Flying at night, which they love to fly at night, and the ground track shows it circling the same 20-mile radius over and over. I shouldn't have looked up that tail number. I know that, but I did it, and now it's in my head.
You know what I want to ask you? I always want to ask you this.
I know what you're going to ask.
Who are they?
Nobody I can name on a scrambled line, which I realize I always say that.
You always say that, and you always call back.
And I always call back. I've already said too much. Look up the tail number. I can't stay on.
Friends, something to sit with. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, our numbers station has a message. You're going to want a pencil for this. Here we are again, friends. The numbers station puzzler. A cipher, a key, a message waiting to be found. A broadcast like this one is a ritual, same as the Bell Farm itself. Patterns that repeat until someone pays close attention. Underneath every cipher is a key, and that key is somewhere in this room with us tonight. Now, the key is hidden in my words, in the way I've been opening each of these lines, the first letters. Those letters are your door. Collect them, night owls. Bring them together. She is already speaking. Your job is to hear her.
Attention. Attention. Begin message. 01082 51524 04192 30307 22261 81409 1012. Message ends. Message ends.
There she goes. Find the key, crack the message, email your answer, and tonight's episode number, episode 63, to doublesecretlabs@gmail.com. Get it right. And one of these nights, your phone might ring. A number that reaches this very studio. Crack her open, friends, and you could be a real voice in the strange hours. Let's take that break.
Don't go wandering off into the dark just yet. Strangely Odd with Sterling Gray returns in just a moment. Stay with us.
Tonight's broadcast, like every broadcast, is brought to you by Double Secret Labs. Double Secret Labs. Their slogan? We do science, so you don't have to. Now, what kind of science exactly? That's a fair question, friends. I've asked. They don't say. And I'm not sure anyone outside that building could tell you what goes on inside it. But the check's clear, the lights stay on. So do yourself a favor, friends. Like and subscribe to Double Secret Labs. And find the show itself, Strangely Odd, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Take us into the dark with you. Double Secret Labs. We do science, so you don't have to. Well, that's the end of our broadcast. Thank you for spending these strange hours with me. The world is a stranger place when you don't have to face it alone. Take care of yourselves out there. Sleep when you can, and keep your eyes open when you can't. I'm Sterling Gray. From all of us at Strangely Odd, until we meet again. Good night, Night Owls.